Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Dan. And today, I'm going to be reviewing the third and final installment of the Gamera trilogy, which again I do have on this Blu-ray set out here, folks. So, I figured since I reviewed all the other Gamera films, I would review this one right here, folks. Might as well. Kinda saddens me that this is the final installment of the trilogy. So anyway, the one I'm be reviewing today is the one titled Gamera 3 Revenge of Iris. So yeah, this one definitely made a big impact, no pun intended, for the Kaiju trilogy. Not just for the Gamera films, but also for the giant Kaiju genre. Kaiju means giant monster in Japanese, of course. So this film was in a lot of ways very influential. It was very positive. It made a response, a good response, of course, with a lot of people. So this film did receive a lot of critical acclaim. I know in the past Gamera was a joke. He was the joke in a lot of ways. But now he's taken more seriously with these series of films, which of course is a plus. Like I said earlier, I'm just kind of sad because this marks the end. The final, last one for this trilogy, folks. Yes, sirree. So, yeah, that's the thing. So, anyway, folks. Yeah. I still have one more Gamera movie to review after this one, but that's a separate film. But I'll be reviewing this one, folks. So, yeah, like I said, I am going to be reviewing another Gamera film after this. But, like I said, I'm just going to be reviewing this one for this trilogy. It was released in its own solo disc on Blu-ray more than once over the years, folks. Yeah, it's a Japanese version, of course. So it depends which one you be getting. It could be, different or not, depending on the behind the scenes or whatever. It was, of course, also released on DVD, of course, in its own set or whatnot. And so yeah, just like the other Gamera films, it had several different releases, and they're not really that much different from one another, really. They were pretty much left alone as it is when it comes to censorship or whatever. Not much change. So regardless of what version of what country you live in or state or whatnot, all these films were pretty much left alone as they were. There's even a Japanese box set for the trilogy that's been released, which is of course pretty cool. So anyway, and then it still got a few more releases over the years, of course, ever since its original release at the time, which of course is pretty cool if you ask me. And then there is this DVD set out here, folks, if you want to get them, of course. Again, it's basically the same movie, but that DVD set actually has more extras than a Blu-ray set I have, just so you know. So, and of course, it was released with this Blu-ray set along with the original films. So, yeah, that's the thing, folks. But the one I'm going to be reviewing is from this packet, the 3-movie set. So again, just so you know, I'm going to be reviewing the one titled Gamera 3 Revenge of Iris. Might as well. If I reviewed one of them, I might as well review them all. So anyway, as always, I do have to talk about the plot of this film. So, let's just start it, shall we? So here we go, folks. So this film starts off right after the previous two films, of course, and the fire-breathing monstrous turtle makes an appearance right here, folks. So in this movie, we get to see it's centering around with this young schoolgirl, which I'll get to in a moment. Gamera 3 opens with the scientist finding the corpse of Gauss in this remote village. Then we get to cut to the teenager I was mentioned a moment ago, this schoolgirl, who was forced to live with her relatives in this type of village or whatever nearby somewhere after Gamera himself had accidentally killed her parents from the first film. But the thing is that she took this as a way that the Gamera did this intentionally, which she didn't. So over the years, she grew a certain hatred towards the character. So that's one of the primary things that the film must focus upon. This angry teenage schoolgirl has a hatred towards Gamera because she mistook his actions as intentional, even though he himself accidentally killed her parents by mistake. So anyway, that's one of the primary things. Anyway, however, one day there was this gang of bullies, these classmates, whom forced her into this area. They forced her to venture into this cave that supposedly has a demon, but instead the thing is that she does find this rock, this very, very certain rock that does light up with her touch for some odd reason. But as time goes, there's like a little creature, demon, beast that comes from its own egg. I know one of the main character's schoolgirl. She does care for it and names it after her dead pet cat, Arius. This, of course, there's some sort of attachment, of course, with her and the creature. And this, of course, will play a theme as the film continues, of course. But anyway, of course, she's going to use this, in a sense, as a tool for her means for vengeance against Gamera. And of course, we're going to see some characters from the previous film, the two films I mean. So it's definitely going to be building upon what's going on from the previous films, and it adds to this film, like a good sequel would do. I know I've said this before, but what makes a good sequel is that it does pay attention to the previous two films, and it adds to the story. That's of course what you should do. Pay attention to what happened before and just add to it. Just expand the story in a way. This is supposed to be a part of an expanded universe anyway, so it makes sense, of course. So anyway, yeah, like I was saying, folks, before, this is the end of the trilogy, and it might be the best of the bunch in a lot of ways. The film has it all from the brisk fight scenes and all the way to this absolutely epic conclusion. It does have everything from the previous two films, and makes it even better in this one as well, folks. So we get all the previous characters from earlier and in this film. On this Blu-ray version, the thing is that there's not much behind it really. There's some behind the scenes, but that's about it. There's not a whole lot I can say about this film that we come in regards of behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, when it comes to behind the scenes stuff, folks, I am again a bit disappointed in here, folks, because I just wish it had more. This version doesn't have that much. I mean, in the other versions of this film that was released, it does. There's some deleted scenes, some camera tests, special effects tests on location, some creating the monsters, the raking of Iris character, and some I know, just that's about it. It's really bare bone dry, unfortunately. But nonetheless, this is a great sequel, folks. And one thing I would say that the director of this film, which is him, he directed this movie. He also directed a Godzilla film as well, several years later, and he did a great job with that Godzilla film as well. I would say, yeah, the main character in that film is also a woman, of course, which I don't mind really. And she is said to be this supermodel, of course, which of course is a good thing. Yeah, that's the thing. I seem the annoying trend in these films, hiring supermodels in these storylines, which I don't mind. I'm not complaining. And this individual here, he helped to make it. So yeah, that's not the only time he helped to make a movie. He made some other stuff like the animated film Taking Blood Vengeance, which I honestly thought was a pretty bad movie. If you ask me, I didn't like it, but he did work on that as well. Well, it helped anyway, and he also helped to do this anime as well, folks. So yeah, he did a lot of stuff as well over time. Yeah, there's lots of anime stuff that he related to do. A lot of anime related stuff he did. Which of course is fine. He just add to his resume. And there's plenty of stuff he went, of course, do like the live action stuff or just the animated stuff. Of course, he helped in one form or another when it comes to anime, which I thought was pretty cool. Of course, so he does have a lot of stuff under his belt. So of course, he would make a good choice to work on this movie. So that's a good thing there. And he's still working to this day, I believe. He's still doing some stuff to this very day. So he's still working even after the Gamera trilogy. So that's something I guess you would say. That's definitely a good thing there. And he even worked on some Pokemon stuff, like this, for example. You know, he did some Pokemon stuff. That's pretty awesome, if you ask me. So anyway, and he just keep going and going with his work. Which of course is understandable. You know, if you have a passion for something, you just keep going for it anyway, I suppose. And yeah, that's the thing. I need to talk about more anime. I really don't talk about anime that often, really. So there's that. But this movie, anyway, folks, like I was saying, Gamera 3 is definitely the best one of all three Gamera films. It's definitely the good conclusion. What makes a good trilogy if there's a good conclusion? So, one thing I can say, it does not suffer with the third part curse. I did thought that the human characters are great. The human characters are pretty likable in their own way. They're fantastic. Even the side characters are pretty great. Again, we get to see many of the familiar characters from the previous two films. So that's just wonderful there, folks. Yes, sirree. One thing I would definitely say is that I did enjoy this a hell of a lot more than the Thor trilogy that they came out with not that long ago. Well, unless they make a fourth one, I guess, but we'll see. This is definitely a good film, folks, and it was actually a pretty big hit in Japan. So this was released in many theaters as humanly possible, of course. So it was definitely something that can be considered as a big financial box office smash hit. Again, no pun intended when I say smash hit. So this definitely is a film that's worth your time, especially fans of the genre. And I can say that this definitely the special effects are really nicely done. Of course, I didn't mention these special effects because it's definitely top notch. You can tell this film definitely has a budget. I mean, okay, the budget for this film is actually fairly small compared to, the Hollywood movie. For an example, if I'm saying the Matrix trilogy had a much bigger budget, but honestly, I thought the Gamera trilogy is a lot better than the Matrix trilogy because Matrix 2 and 3 were just god awful. But anyway, this is definitely a sequel that's worth watching in a lot of ways. The special effects are nicely touched. I like the human drama, but more on that in a moment, I guess. So the special effects in here is really top notch. Definitely has some of the best special effects in a kaiju film, and it would even rival the Godzilla films that came out during the early 1990s. I'd say that. So the fight scenes are nicely done. I did like the fight scenes. They're pretty damn intense with all the human characters at risk of being killed off or whatever. The fight scenes are top notch. Of course, I'm gonna talk about the fight scenes because hey, this is a monster movie. Of course, I'll talk about the fight scenes. The fight scenes are really crazy and wild, like they should be. The destruction scenes, of course, I'm gonna talk about the destruction scenes. The destruction scenes must, are really nicely done. I have to talk about the destruction scenes because, again, it's a kaiju film. You have to talk about the fight scenes and you have to talk about the destruction scenes because this is a giant monster movie after all. So both of which of the sequences are really nicely done. The drama, like we were saying earlier, the drama is rather high and quite intense in this film. The threat that Gamera faces in here is not just limited to Japan, but is felt the world over. So basically, the entire damn planet is threatened in this damn film. Like, holy shit, that's pretty fucking intense right there. So I can definitely say that the creatures in here is pretty interesting, folks. The creatures are pretty, of course, pretty crazy. What's interesting in here is that while Gamera just face off the usual and unusual creatures, he confronts a threat from the humans as well. Humanity, of course, poses a threat to him as well, especially from that, the angry, pissed off schoolgirl. Yes, he does have a connection to that, the creature. So, of course, I can say that this film does feel darker. This film does have a very dark tone to it, which I like. So, I'm bringing the serious tone because with each Gamera film, the tone of it becomes more and more serious, which I do think is a good thing. The darker path that these films had taken place, especially with the third movie, is a great thing. But darker the movie it is, the greater feel of hope when the Gamera arrives can be a good thing, of course. So, and yes, of course, I like the overall tone. It's really gritty and overall, which of course is definitely a plus in my book. I do like the grittiness of it, of course, the gloom and doom that he over has. Yeah, this movie is not for kids. That's what I'm saying, folks. This movie is not a kids movie by any means, which of course is a plus in my book. I don't want this film to be for kids at all, because I always thought it was kind of stupid to aim this film for children anyway, and that never made any sense to me. So anyway, I did like the way it was done, of course. There was a possible risk, high tension overall. And I did like how it was done, of course. This has to be one of the most insane fight scenes in a Gamera film that's ever been done before. In a lot of ways, you can't hardly believe that is actually happening, even if you watch it. And of course, it's pretty crazy. The great use of special effects makes you really, absurdly, insanely crazy. It's just a damn shame that this is the last time that's ever going to be done. So, yeah, that's the thing, folks. So, if you have not seen this film as of yet, I really recommend it because this is the top-notch film. As for the acting, I can say the acting is really great. The acting is top-notch in film. I can tell that the actors and actresses are really putting a lot of effort into these characters, which of course is always a plus. I love it when people actually give effort into performance in kaiju films. And I know the kaiju genre is not known for its acting, which, if you ask me, is rather sad because there's a lot of kaiju films out there that does have fantastic acting. And in this case, it definitely does have. There's definitely plus a lot of great acting, of course. So anyway, the acting's top notch, and it's definitely well written. It's really well written. It does have some of the best written dialogue in a Gamera film ever, so that's for sure. Did like the way it was done, of course, in terms of dialogue. So I can say that this film is definitely one of the best third parts films out there, because I know usually when films can become a franchise, usually around the second or third film, it becomes, goes downhill. So thankfully that doesn't happen here. So the way the film handles itself, there's no third part curse. That's for sure. There's no third part curse in this movie, folks. Yes, sorry. So anyway, in terms of storytelling, this does have a great plot, of course. There's a sense of epicness, craziness overall. So yeah, it's just definitely nicely done as a whole, because the story does provide lots of interesting elements overall. With the characters, the action sequences, which again I must say that is insane. This is the Japanese version I'm reviewing on Blu-ray. I can wish the Blu-ray version, well, it could have had more use of behind the features. I do like the returning characters in here. The returning characters make it seem even better, because it does feel like it is definitely an expanded universe they did creative here. And this film is definitely a great conclusion. I don't want to give away too much of the story for this film, because I do believe that it's worth you watching. And so yeah, the way this film is constructed in terms of basically everything, it does it right. This is definitely one of the best giant monster films ever. It's not just a great Gamera movie, it's also a great kaiju film. It's definitely one of the best kaiju films that's been out there. I like the way it was handled, the source material, the way it's carrying the story. So overall, a damn good kaiju film. So if you're a fan of the genre, I definitely recommend this one film if you haven't seen it already because it's pretty damn crazy. So overall, it's definitely a solid movie. The film in Japan, Gamera 3, Revenge of Virus, won the award for Best Sound Recording. So that's definitely a good thing, folks. And a lot of people are commenting about special effects, so I'm not going to really mention that much often because the special effects have already been complimented on quite a few times anyway. When this film was released, Gamma 3, The Revenge of Iris, was released in Japan on March 3rd, 1999. The film had grossed well over $50 million in its opening release. And of course, the film did have its North American premiere at G-Fest in 1999. So this film was actually released in Japan for good and in America for a good while. And it was also shown at the 1999 Totoro, if I'm pronouncing that right, Film Festival. And the film did not really have a wide release in North America, so it was released in direct-to-video on DVD on June 10th of 2003. The film also had a Blu-ray release, of course, as I mentioned earlier, on September 27th of 2011. Gamera 3 was definitely one of the best films of the genre. Like I said, while this is the grand finale of the Gamera trilogy, but it's not the final Gamera film as a whole. Which, like I said, I would review. There's one more Gamera film I have to review, but I'll get to that when I get to that. I will review one more Gamera film after this movie, and I will not tell you what it is and once I get to it. But again, enough with that about this one. This is the final conclusion to the Gamera trilogy. This is the final storyline for this storyline. This is the conclusion for this story, just so you know, folks. So this basically going to be the one I'll be talking about, of course. I did like how it was done, of course. I did like the overall movie, the overall tone. The costume design, the kaiju designs are great. I really like the monster designs. Gamera looks menacing. He looks like he's an actual giant monster there. And of course, the villain, the bad monster, I guess you can say, he definitely looks like a threat. He's definitely a threat. That's his final form, by the way. Yeah, it looks pretty scary when you think about it. Yeah, kind of weird. He was like this at first, like a little baby monster, deformed thing. He was like this at first. So you know that's something there. Yes, sorry. So, but of course, you get bigger and bigger as it goes. The action sequences, of course, are really well done. It makes you feel that these two giant monsters are actually going at it. So, even humanity itself is a threat with Gamera, unintentionally, even though he wants to save everybody. So, this film as a whole does a wonderful job of creating, you know, some intense moments. And I mean, holy hell, lots of intense moments, folks. Yes, sir. And yes, it's a giant monster movie, of course, but that doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't have, you know, any intense moments overall. So this film really does a great job with that, of course. I did like how it was done, obviously, and I did like the way that, you know, it was treated as characters. This film doesn't take itself seriously. I know I've said this multiple times before, but I always like it when these giant monster films do take themselves rather serious. So that's definitely a good thing there. So anyway, folks, I say that this is definitely a good movie overall. I did like how it was done in terms of story and narrative and whatnot. So nothing really I can complain about this really, because I did like it. What was done, of course. The music in this film was really nicely done. I love the music in here, folks, because the way the music is done is definitely great here. The music is top notch. It definitely gives you the sense of dread, of doom. And yeah, but of course there's more, you know, music for the entire film to create a sense of, you know, like a magical feel to it. In some ways, this movie feels like an anime come to life. So that's one of the things that's how it came off to me anyway. It definitely came off like an anime came to life, but it's just done with a giant monster movie. So of course I mean that as a compliment, of course. I honestly do mean that as a compliment, of course. So I can't really complain about that at all, obviously. So, yeah, seeing there's a schoolgirl in here, I still say it's a good movie anyway. Yeah, it does get pretty, I guess gruesome like this. Like I see a dead corpse of the gals here. Yeah, that's kind of disturbing to look at. Yeah. Anyway, so I like the scenery. It's definitely well choreographed. Yes, it may not have the biggest budget in the war, but the entire film is definitely really well choreographed. So yeah, the people who are behind the camera definitely does a good job with the choreograph. There's a sense of size. There's a sense of scope. Just his entire film, it does feel like it's this huge, big adventure of a movie. So yeah, it doesn't feel like this grand adventure for the camera is finally is going to come to a conclusion. So that's a good thing there. There's going to be a big conclusion right here, folks, for this particular storyline. So yeah, that's definitely a great thing there because they're actually taking this seriously, and I do like the fact that people will take this seriously. I know not a whole lot of people have seen this film at all. I know there's been plenty of people out there that have not seen this film, and that's one of the reasons as to why I want to review it is because not a whole lot of people have seen this film itself. So I'm taking my time out of my day to talk about movies like this. If they're worth watching or not, either way, I will talk about it, of course, because I genuinely do like these films. I like these kaiju genre. So I just want to review more of these movies more often when I can. Of course, but I don't mind it really. I did like it, this film, of course. So I can say that this film definitely have a great scope of things. It's not just monster mashing fun. No, but yeah, it's so crazy in its own way that it's actually really enjoyable in many ways. But that's okay, of course. This is definitely. I'm not just saying this because I like this movie. I'm not just saying it because I like this film, but it is definitely one of the best trilogies out there. Yep, it's a damn good trilogy. It feels all connected. It's a damn good trilogy. And it's definitely one of my favorite trilogies out there, along with, Star Wars. Of course, it's one of the greatest trilogies out there. And then, there's also the Batman trilogy, which I also thought was great as well. So that's often considered a great trilogy as well, folks. And then, speaking of trilogies here, folks, I have to say that the Lord of the Rings is a great trilogy, of course. That's definitely a great thing there. So I guess another one I do have to bring up is the Back to the Future trilogy, which I also thought was great. All three of them are great, if you ask me. My point is that all these trilogies I just mentioned are my favorite trilogies, and this one too. This would definitely be one of my top 10 favorite trilogies of all time. It definitely earns that title. It's a great trilogy, folks. So if you haven't seen all three films, be sure to check it out. But anyway, Gamera 3, Revenge of Cyrus, gets an overall rating of an 8.3 out of 10. It gets an 8.3 out of 10 from me. That's a pretty damn high rating there, folks. One of the highest rating I've ever given a film. As always, thanks for watching, folks, and take care. Until next time, oh yeah, see ya.